Yeah, so I'm George Gilbert. I'm the strategic lead for the Leadership Academy that was launched a couple of months ago.
Great.
I'm Tanya Shankland. I'm Head of Leadership and Development in Serena's absence, but today I'm representing Matthew from DICE.
Great. That's welcome. And we've got Gillian from Audit Wales. Welcome.
Yeah. Hello, thank you. Yes, I'm Gillian Gillett. I'm the Audit Manager from Audit Wales. Nice to meet you all.
Great. And I think we'll be able to see who people are, because there are a number of members. Anything you can't see clearly, then let us know. Right, we'll go on then with apologies. Mia, you've got a whole list of those, haven't you?
Yeah.
You don't need to read them out, just you've got them there.
Yeah.
You've got them.
Yeah.
Right. Declaration of interest, any other than those already in the part of the company secretary? Right. Officer. Chairperson's announcements, that will be put it on the record about thanks to the team who organised the cadet games. Saying earlier, you know, I went down there on Friday. I know people went down there over the subsequent days. It was a great thing to see. It was, I think it was some 30 odd teams. Fantastic for South Wales. Abergavenny and Barry doing really well. Abergavenny was second. I think Abergavenny was second. And another team in the top 10. So that would have been a real boost to the young people, and also to the instructors. Talked to how they've been doing it. How long?
18 years.
18 years. All those people that work in the background, you know, and make these things happen. Plus, I slipped out of my mind, but the lady who ran our manager,
Amy James,
an absolute star. I was talking to Amy, and she really was embracing the whole thing. Really understood it, really wanted it, and what she'd done is she was able to make a reality of what she talked about when she came here all those months before and said, we're going to do this, we're going to do that, and then to see it in play, you know, it was fabulous. So just record it in the minutes. Our thanks to Amy and her job, absolutely well done. In fact, I was talking to one of the team colleagues today, and he said, as a watch commander, he said, we want the next high. Give us the next thing we can do to give us a high. I thought, you know, that's really good, as opposed to we've got that out of the way, we just need to get back to normal. It's like, and what comes next? So that's really good news. Moving on then to matters raised to the Commission subcommittees. I'm not being formally informed of any matters that need to be brought to the attention of the board that have been raised. So we can then move on to item 5, to receive the minutes of the Board of Commissioners South Wales on the 6th of June. So what I intend to do is, we've got a number of them to go through. We'll take accuracy and then I'll take matters arising subsequently. So page 1 of the minutes, with page 5 of your bundle, 6 of the bundle, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Those minutes are approved. Moving on then to page 13 in the bundle, which is the local pension board. Page 13 of that. 14. 15. 16. Those minutes are approved. Then moving on to the next one, which is the people committee. Page 17. 18. 19, 20, okay, approved. And then moving on to the Finance and Audit Committee, page 21, 22, 23, 24. Almost really got a bit of a roll sometimes because I've been rushed the last one. 25. Okay then, moving on then to item 6, update on outstanding actions. So the first one is ongoing on the report to September meeting, as will the efficiency plan. Brought to our vote, it's just the one above it. Spoke with ACFO Loader prior to the meeting. I think our view was that these result from the minute that's taken in March, and we were looking to deliver in December, which seems a long time for strategic performance indicators, which are part of how we govern the organisation in terms of key targets. So we've agreed that September meeting of the we'll bring forward those performance indicators. So in whatever form that is, it doesn't have to be absolutely finished, and just needs to be where we're at. Hopefully we'll look on a long way to getting it sorted. Any other observations or comments on the matters arising? Great, thank you. Right. Southwest, we've got the update from Keith. Over to you.
Thanks very much, Chair. So good afternoon, everyone in the room and also online. I'm not going to go through every single point in my report. You can see that it's written in the pack up for you, but I am going to go through a few areas and hone in on them. And also I'll add a few bits and pieces which have happened since we went to print. So first of all, the ELT structure, really pleased to say that we've got the Deputy Chief Fire Officer role that's been advertised internally and externally. We're going for interviews for those positions shortly. In addition to that, we've got 2 Assistant Chief Fire Officer roles that have been out, and we've done the SIP for those. And again, we'll be going for interviews very soon for those. We welcome our new treasurer, Sarah Halbert, to the service, and that has added a layer of scrutiny that I think is really important, and also has given Lisa a little bit of a break, because Lisa has been doing 2 jobs, and I'd just like to thank you, Lisa, for all the hard work that you've done over the last year, because that has been deeply impressive. We also have a new monitoring officer, Amanda Brown. She arrived on the 18th of August. And what does this mean? It means that we're getting to a point now where we're both stabilising and enhancing our governance in the senior levels of the organisation. I think that's really important. And it's also bringing in quite a lot of external expertise, which again is really important to what we're doing. Paragraph 1.2 refers to discipline and grievances. You can see that we have had an increase in both formal grievances and discipline cases. However, we have had a decrease in suspensions. Now, on the face of it, this looks like a troubling statistic or set of statistics, but there is something in my mind here. It may actually be quite a pleasing statistic in a way, because it would appear that people have more faith in our system and that they are prepared to go forward and report things, particularly if that statistic about a reduced number of suspensions indicates that we've got some of the lower level grievances that are coming forward, rather than people just harbouring things. And it's my intent as an organisation to make sure that people do feel that they've got confidence in the system to get things out there and raise issues. However, I also would like to acknowledge that we've got a lot of work to do in this area, and I look across to Alison, because what we are doing here is we've established a lead for the Professional Standards Unit, and we will be delivering a paper by the end of August on Professional Standards Unit and what that looks like, because I want to enhance the speed at which we deliver grievances and disciplinary outcomes, but also I want to increase the trust that people have in it. And there's a degree of separation from the service that paper will achieve. So there'll be some options coming to the commissioners there for that, and also to us. Paragraph 1.3, the Educate to Prevent programme. So we established the Taking Care of Behaviours programme. That's part of the Fenella Morris recommendations. We've delivered to, it says 200 employees. It's now 300 since this report went in 2 weeks ago. So you can see that we are going at pace with this. But Alison and I have discussed this in quite a bit of detail, and we aim to now accelerate this, and we're bringing people in from the ops side of the organisation to assist with that delivery. And the aim is to be 100% complete by the end of October. Operational risk and plans, we've got a fire cover review that is scheduled for delivery by the 25th of October. We've been doing a lot of work in fatigue management. That's really important, and I won't go into too much detail there, but you can see that we're working on that in 3 stages. The decontamination program, this is really important for firefighter safety particularly, but also actually safety of some of our corporate staff who are also involved in handling decontaminated items. I won't go into the detail that you can read in there, except to say that we formed a dedicated contaminants working program that also includes representatives from the FBU and the other unions. So I think that's a really good example of working in a social partnership. Moving on to instructors and instructing, and we're going to have some more on this a bit later on. Just suffice to say that we established a new chapter for instructors and the instructor charter on the 25th of June. That's a really important step because it's codifying what we are doing in the instructional sphere. And I'm really pleased with some of the leadership and some of the activity that's been going on down at Cardiff Gate, and also that's been going on with the L&D department, and also George as a new appointee in this area. The advances in the instructor training course, the leadership development of a syllabus, and also leadership doctrine. Big hats off to you, George, for the speed at which you've been operating there. So thank you. We've introduced a training allowance at Cardiff Gate. It's my vision for the organisation that training really is the cradle of knowledge and the cradle of excellence. And to make sure that we're really focusing on Cardiff Gate as that centre of excellence is really important. So we have established a 6.5% uplift as a trial for 12 months to see if that attracts people away from the current shift pattern out on station, because I want to see the very best of the best down in Cardiff Gate, inspiring the next generation, and also making sure that when people come to Cardiff Gate, they recognise that they've got the very best of instructors there. And we have some awesome instructors there, certainly the instructing that I've had in recent months, Blue Light Training course and the core skills, for example. I've seen some real excellence there. So if you'd pass that on, Brian, to your staff, my thanks to them is enormous. Fire investigation training, you can see there we're making some excellent advances in that. And then let's move on to digitisation. This is really, really important. We had a meeting at the beginning of this week with Alacrity. Alacrity is an organisation which is charitably based, and they've come into our organisation, and we're working together with them to start looking at how we digitise on a major scale. And we need to create a digital backbone, because it's upon that everything else is built in this data enabled world. A little bit on social partnership. Another good example of social partnership is the establishment of the additional shifts trial. This is to try to sort out the public holiday issue that has been an ongoing problem for many of our staff for many, many years now. So we've got a trial commencing this month. Full rollout going in September, but discussion the last couple of days, we're expanding this because the demand is already high for this. But this is a really important way that I think we're going to address some of the sickness issues in the service, and also some of the challenges that people have about getting away from leave at appropriate times that I think we should be giving to our people. Family and friends engagement days. Now, this is something we're trying to generate a little bit more of a smile around the service in many different ways, and we've established a program here of on-call duty stations, particularly inviting their families and their friends onto the station to create that community spirit and that family spirit, recognizing particularly the sacrifices that families give to this rather strange world in which people are on shift at various different times, and people are also maintaining on-call duty shifts. Also, the aim here is to increase morale and also retention, particularly in the on-call system. And we have been looking overseas at how other countries actually do approach the on-call system. So we're setting up a little bit of a program with Austria, and they are I think it's 78% on-call, and looking at some of the lessons that they have undergone in recent years. The medium-term financial strategy is something else I'd just like to hone in on. This is key. I arrived in the service and we didn't really have a medium-term financial strategy that took into account the budgets for the transformation program. Clearly, to have a transformation program that's effective, you have to budget it. So we're doing this, and we've made major advances in the last few weeks on that. Really pleased with how that's going, and certainly Sarah coming into position has given Lisa the necessary additional firepower to really put an emphasis on making sure that this medium-term financial strategy is squared so that we can take things forward. And that will allow us to do things like make sure that we can deliver on the ICT strategy, that we can start really getting at some of the bigger programs that we need to do, like decontamination, etc., to make sure they're all costed. And we're working through the whole of the strategy, which has got 60 lines of effort to make sure that's part of that medium-term financial strategy. So, in conclusion, very busy period since my last update. Many of the lines of activity that we envisage in the strategy are now in the process of delivery, and I'm really pleased to see a lot of activity now coming to fruition. I had a meeting here in the headquarters the other day, and there was a different buzz in the organisation, I thought. Positivity, noting we still have a lot of work to go, noting we're still a fragile organisation. Thank you.
Great, thank you for that, Chief. Any comments, observations? Carl?
Two comments really. Really welcome the work on the media, but so thanks for that you feel that absolutely right, Chief, what you've raised, and and reiterate your thanks to Lisa really for the role she did as a dual hat and as treasurer. You know, it was very grateful for the support she gave us, and you know, I'm sure this will really take us forward. Family Engagement Day just feel like a great opportunity, don't they? Really, and you know, it is a hard to get people to volunteer at the moment, no matter what field you're in, and the more that we can do to support and you know celebrate the work they do is fabulous. So great to see that one. One question and just one thought really. So the thought first of all, the PSU work, and do you think the staff survey will be able to kind of identify if we have got a rise because of positive engagement, or we've got a bigger problem in there? So it's a query around that one when we do the staff survey work. And the PMO manager, we've been talking about PMO manager for what seems like ever. Not pointing to put you on the spot, but maybe Alison around, have we got a date for that to finally go out? I'd just kind of be very excited.
I'll need to check.
Yes.
One moment. I think it's pretty much ready to go.
So we've got the two other positions filled.
Yeah.
And that work about putting things on a programmatic footing is and particularly after we got the software, is really, really advanced, I think. And that's something I've been really driving for. That goes hand in hand with the finance of the finance issue and the medium-term strategy. So I'm really pleased that we have finally got there with that, because without that, you haven't got a plan. We now have a good plan, and the plan's solid, I think. So, and in there, of course, you've got the Fenella Morris reports, recommendations, and you also have the HMI recommendations, which have all been knitted together through that PMO. Interestingly, Alacrity, when they came in on Monday, one of the items they came up with was, well, of course, you'll need a PMO. And we said, we have a PMO. We nearly have a PMO. We nearly have a PMO. But seeing that as an assumption by an organisation, and also an assumption that we wouldn't have one, I think means we are ahead of the game to a degree with what actually we're expecting to see.
So we have the portfolio office manager is out currently. Let me just have a look. So there are some applications in the system.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Really positive. And the staff survey, do you think that will kind of be able to calibrate our...
Stuart, hey, you're running with the staff survey, aren't you?
Okay, so we've got the HMI questions there, which covered morale engagement. The new staff survey, which the questions are for consultation now. Murrah, the HMI survey, so we've got a year's worth of data. We've just done a pulse survey on morale, so we've got the data from there, which again is fed into the staff survey as well. So we've got 3 months worth there, a year's worth, plus we mapped against the Morris report questions, and we've mapped against some of the investors and people questions as well. So we've had pretty good about, within reason, on and off some questions, 10 years worth of data.
Great. Kathy?
Thank you. Thank you to the Chief. 2 questions for me. First, on paragraph 1.2, discipline and grievances, just seeking assurance around the governance of and scrutiny of these figures. Obviously, we've got a year-on-year comparison here, just seeking some assurance that the People and Culture Committee will be looking at those in year, and whether trends would be identified. So, Chief, I agree with you in some ways. A rise in figures, hopefully followed by a dip, is a signifier of greater confidence in the system. But I think it would be really useful if we could look at those numbers on a quarterly basis, and as I said, looking at trends in the nature of the grievances that are coming forward. I think the development of a professional standards unit is really, really, really welcome, especially if that means that we can deal with these matters in a more timely fashion. I think, if one raises a grievance, or if one is subject to a grievance, having that dealt with quickly and efficiently is really important for everybody, as well as the organisation as a whole. So it'd be really useful to understand about the oversight and the governance and how we will keep track of that performance. And then secondly, to paragraph 3.2 in the training allowance, I note that this is a 12-month trial. Could you outline what the success criteria are for the trial, and how will we know whether the trial will have performed well enough for it to turn into a permanent solution? So some further details on the success criteria for that trial, please.
Question one then, yes, we will be reporting as you suggested, and I think I should qualify the is it a good thing or is it a bad thing that we've had an increase in reports? This is really hard to judge, isn't it? Really hard to judge. I do caveat that my earlier statement, I think. Alison, have you got anything to add to question one?
Yes, thank you. So People Committee received a report at its meeting on, I think, the 11th of June, which had some headline data from our discipline and grievance cases. It has some themes in there as well, but actually, Kirsty, your point about reporting quarterly, we will pick that up because the report is actually an annual look and it looks at the last financial year. So we will make that change and move to a quarterly report to People Committee going forward.
And then in answer to question two, so a 12-month trial of that 6%, 6.5% uplift. What are we looking for? We're looking to have stability of instructors down at Cardiff Gate. So we'll be able to measure whether people are going into Cardiff Gate and then just going in to try to get promoted, because that's been the trend that we've seen in recent months, years. So going in, to pick up the promotion and then immediately requesting to leave. So we'll be monitoring that. Have you got any other points that you want?
Chief, it's about attraction.
Yeah.
So the caliber of trainees, trained instructors to go there. So there's an attraction piece. There's a retention piece, because we know that morale took a bit of a dip in Cardiff Gate after the Fenella Morrisville, and I think we've made great progress in improving the morale there. And two components of that really, which was the attraction and retention of staff. In February at SLT, with the express authority of the chief, we agreed two decisions, which was the 6.5% uplift to 12 for a year, and then we'll see if we've got the data to support the change. And then the numbers of staff we need at Cardiff Gate as well. So we're just working our way through, because the metric showed we needed 5 additional trainers to train what we need to do in terms of our statutory commitments to our firefighters. But then also, if you want to look at the future, the future trends are broadening the role, we need 5 extra staff there. We're still working our way through that, because you get that position over the number of years. Already, the data is sort of anecdotally we're getting from Neil Davis now. It's already had a significant impact on morale, the workforce down there, the 6.5% uplift. So yeah, I'm pretty sure we know what's going on in a year's time.
And Commissioner Williams, on that point, the retention, that's an easy one to measure. So it's speed at which people are flowing out, but then also overall retention. So not having gaps down at Cardiff Gate. They are the two key metrics for me. The morale is a harder one to judge, but that comes into the survey, and we're able to actually hone in on the survey results based on location. The other thing that I think we need to bear in mind as we approach that the end of that 12-month period, there are other things that we have discussed. One of them is, well, should we change? Well, one of the attractions of being on a station is the shift pattern. When you ask people to go to Cardiff Gate, they've got a very different lifestyle. And one of the discussions that we had during this process, well, could it be a different shift pattern? Now, one of the outcomes of that discussion was actually it would be a lot more expensive to introduce a a representative shift pattern that matches the 224 system that we have. All right. So this is a trial. We are actually at the lower end of the cost compared to most other brigades across the country. Some of them are paying 10-12% uplift for this.
Yes, you hand up, is it supplementary?
Yes, please, if you don't mind. Forgive me, I should know this, but I don't. I don't know what the resource implications are for that uplift in terms of, you know, how much more this is costing us. But I think good practice with any pilot would be to be very clear from the outset about what the formal appraisal of the pilot will look like. And it's just a suggestion, but I think what would be really good is to see what that formal appraisal will look like, to have an interim appraisal of the pilot at 6 months, and then have a final appraisal at the end of 12 months, so that we can look to see whether the success criteria have been met and whether that represents good value for money in terms of, you know, has that uplift actually made a difference? And, you know, that evaluation can have qualitative and quantitative feedback, but I think I would be reassured if I knew that there was a formal appraisal being planned at 6 months and at 12.
So formal appraisal definitely planned for 12 months, but your 6-month point I think is very valid. So we'll do that.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, happy.
Thank you.
Great. So I've got a follow up on that, then I've got a couple of odds. So in terms of when watch commanders are appointed, how does it? There's a hierarchy, so then when we have a list, and the first people get offered ops positions, and then we work our way down towards training. Is it, or do training come first? Do they get the pick of the?
Yeah. Sorry, Chair, I can pick this up if you like. Yeah, so on the promotional list, say a watch manager list, for instance, if you're top of that list, you can offer a first post, but that could be in operations or training. We can offer what's on offer, and then take people from the top.
So we've had the top people on those promotions have gone into training. Right. So I just the thing is, it's about making training aspirational, isn't it? Where you want the top candidates saying, actually, we want to go into training because it's deemed to be the place, the heart of the organisation.
No, I agree.
Totally agree.
Okay, good. Okay, so moving on then from that, a couple of other bits. One would be on the digitalisation. We talked about it being a significant risk. Is it logged as a risk on our risk register?
Yes.
Yes, it is. What the failure to digitalise it. And then just happen to be here. On the documentary on 6.2, it says that we'll capture compelling footage, which is great. But my history on this stuff is that compelling footage for a media company and compelling footage for us are two different things. And you comfortable that we've got sufficient editorial control on this?
Yes, I am. So we work closely with the production team to understand their rationale and their reason behind wanting to do something. They're looking to copy a Saving Lives at Sea style documentary rather than a hard-hitting documentary. So they're looking to tell the story of people in the community rather than looking for a second subject.
Okay, that's great. I'm assured by that. Thank you very much.
No attack drones.
Right, then we'll crack on with item 8.1, principal observations. So please, for Ality.
Start. Yes. Okay, thank you, Chair. Good afternoon, all. So this report invites Commissioner to endorse the recruitment processes that are already underway for a Deputy Chief Fire Officer. This is a post already on the establishment, and for the recruitment of 2 Assistant Chief Fire Officers. So this means an increase to the establishment by 1 permanent Assistant Chief Fire Officer. It also seeks to ratify the recent appointments for the 2 statutory officers. So this is the Treasurer and the Director of Service Support or Monitoring Officer role, as the Chief has already shared. As colleagues will know, the Constitution delegates the appointment of the Principal Officer role to the Finance and Audit Committee. However, for speed and also in line with the Constitution, the Board of Commissioners can confirm the appointments of principal officers, which is why this report is coming to the Board of Commissioners. The report also seeks retrospective approval for the deputy and assistant chief role on the basis that the commissioners have been involved in that process. So to cover off the rationale for the proposals in the report, we have 2 serving ACFOs who have put their retirement notices in and will leave the service in January 2026. Also, the service is required to have the appropriate level of operational cover, and the assessment here is that the service should have 1 deputy and 2 permanent ACFOs in order to support the rota cover going forward, and in doing so maintains firefighter safety at large scale incidents. The Treasurer and Monitoring Officer roles, as Commissioners will be aware, we are required to have those. They are head of paid service roles, and it's a statutory requirement for us to have those as part of our constitution and senior leadership team. So in summary, the report is asking Commissioners to approve an increase to the number of permanent Assistant Chief Fire Officer roles from 1 to 2. The job descriptions, recruitment and selection process is underway for the post of Deputy Chief Fire Officer and the 2 posts of Assistant Chief Fire Officer. And retrospective approval is requested for the appointment of Sarah Halbert as the Treasurer and Amanda Brown as the Monitoring Officer. I'll pause there. I'm happy to take any questions.
I'm really conscious that at the remit, we really kicked the tyres on this, and it's a decision for the 3 commissioners here. I'm happy to approve it. Carl?
Yeah, just one question really. 2 points really. I suppose one is that whatever structure we put in can be reviewed at points in time, can't they?
Yeah.
Both on changes of establishment, people moving in and out, we can review that, can't we?
If I may, to add to that, in the discussion, this is really important to this the additional ACFO posts. One of the things, as we were discussing it, and you'll remember this conversation, is we're in a state of massive change here, and we're introducing CRMP. We've got the decontamination program, and we've got a whole load of risk revalidation that's going on within the whole of the organisation. That is major change, plus transformation taking place. So as we did our analysis, we were looking at, okay, how do we do this? Noting also that Dominic's job will be going at some stage, so that strategic view of the organisation needs to be in place, and that's why we ended up with the ACFO position. But your point is really valid, that it doesn't, although they're permanent positions, in due course as people retire, so we can still adjust that in 2-3 years' time.
And my second point was what the Chief just said, that actually when I look at the organisation from Fernell Morris to the corporate review to the Matic, it does feel like an unprecedented amount of demand.
Yeah.
A lot of which sits at across the organisation, a lot of it sits at chief officer level, doesn't it? So making to keep the ambition that we've got and the desire and the passion, the energy, we need the kind of capacity. So long way of saying I'm full support.
Very good.
Thank you. I'm very supportive of the proposals contained in the paper.
We'd hope that people wouldn't have even after 2 years.
But the natural flow is that people are in and out of the organisation.
Okay, so that recommendation is accepted. Thank you very much. Anything else on that? No. Right, moving on then. Statement of accounts 8.2. Lisa?
Thank you, Chair. I'm going to just jump around a little bit, and I want to take you to page 47 first, if I may. So that's the revenue outturn report. And there's a reason for this. The 2 outturn reports for the main budget in the service, revenue and capital, they're the main jumping off points for completion of the statutory statement of accounts. So I'm just going to walk you through those 2 reports first, and then finish on the statement of, and we'll go back to the statement of accounts report if that's okay. Okay, so the revenue outturn report, what this is trying to do for the organisation is provide a final position for the year on what our spending is. It illustrates what the variances are against the main headings for budget, and it indicates whether all those individual variances add up to an overspend or an underspend position. And we know that for last year, that was a £1.4 million underspend. This is important because it informs future budget setting, and we know that's going at the minute for 2026-27. The report is also useful for us and important in terms of asking commissioners to approve the deployment of that underspend into the various reserves, and I've highlighted there both the Firelink joint control and the equipment renewal reserve areas in the reserve statement. So just to quickly go through those reserve items, the Firelink reserve, this is needed. It's already set up, so we just topping that up in terms of the information that's provided in the report. It references contingent liabilities in terms of an ongoing court case, and this is in line with accounting standards and then the requirements that we follow. So there's an additional 656 going into the Firelink reserve, which will take that to a £1.1 million total. Now that bill may or may not become payable in 2025-26. If it is, great, we've got the money there, so we've managed the financial risk. If it isn't, that could be utilised elsewhere for further discussion. So the 242,000 for the equipment replacement reserve, that's a continuation of the strategy that's already in motion. That was put in place 2 years ago to deal with peaks and troughs of technical refreshes of smaller revenue equipment replacement and renewal programmes. So, you know, this has become quite important for us lately with the work in the thematic reviews, because they are putting demand on spending for wholesale replacement of different pieces of frontline kit. And we've also got some requirements coming out of the HMICFRS report also, and that was initially a £2 million reserve that was being whittled away, and this is an opportunity to top that back up. It won't hit £2 million exactly, but it'll take us back to where we need to be able to support future spending. And then the remaining £500,000 there, I'm suggesting putting it into a reserve to accommodate the fire control project to improve effectiveness in that area. I won't take you through the detail of the report. I'm assuming everybody has read it. It's fairly standard. It looks at the changes from the outturn position to the budget. It talks about some structural budget positions there, in particular premises, and what we can do. You know, that is useful for us in terms of what we can do going forward in 26-27 budget setting. So some areas to note there in terms of how we're going to structure our budgets in the medium-term financial strategy. And I think I'll pause there and take any questions.
Lisa, I've got one question. I've just got one thought, really. The question is around the legal services, 135k overspend this year. And you probably haven't got the data in front of you, but I just wonder, is that a continuous, we're seeing year on year overspending for legal services, or is it just a one-off this year? And do we need to start to think about something different? So that would be just a query, really, based on that one. And this may just be for commissioners. Sadly, I've got the scars for Firelink over too long to mention. I just wonder if it's worth at some point Firelink understanding the potential risks and costs for us more broadly should come back to this board, because there are potentially risks around it not achieving. There are potential risks of extension of costs, etc., more broadly, that might, if unless things have changed dramatically, might cause some significant issues. And the 1.1 million is really helpful. I just wonder if it would be well, if we should be bringing that back to have that look and understanding of where it is.
Lisa, Brian, come to you.
Yeah, no, it would come through ICT. So, but there's a lot of people who've got their sort of hands on this, really, and a lot of stakeholders in this, and you know what's going on nationally. But I'm quite happy to take that away as an action to look at that. And it's Chris Williams to come in and report back on it, working with Lisa and the finance team.
Is that okay, Lisa?
Yeah, that's absolutely fine. I think most of us are aware that there was a replacement plan for Firelink in the form of Emergency Services Network. I think we've been waiting probably 15 years for that to come in. So whether it will, we don't know. But currently we've got the costs in the budget to accommodate for something that delivers on that front. And we know that this is Fireground Radio communications. So I think, thank you, Brian, for picking that point and bringing it back. Just to go back to your first point, Commissioner Fowkes, the 135, this isn't recurring spend. This is reactive council sought in the year for various legal assistance then. So it's very difficult to say with any certainty what that would look like every single year. But I think your point about looking at what we are spending and is there a better way to provide that, it's a good one, because I think that outsourcing can sometimes come at a premium, but you've got that quick and fast access to that council, as opposed to the alternative, wouldn't it, would be to have an in-house provision.
No, I was going to support that, Lisa. That's what I was going to say about that. And outsource, it gives you that impartiality that you pay a premium. But I think some of the cases we're in, that external counsel really does add its weight, regardless of the internal provision. But it's definitely something looking at as part of the operating model. But I think it will always be something that we take a lot of comfort in taking that completely impartial view, just in terms of fairness. So
it doesn't have an external counsel either. You can go for a whole range of things, whether
Yes.
If you try to cover all that lot off internally on in-house counsel,
Yes, that's correct, Chair. It would be legal counsel in terms of employment and non-employment areas, you know. So some aspects of those costs sitting in contracted services, they relate to planning and consultancy work for our estates, you know. So there's a variety of different things that are sitting there. I think what's most reactive is possibly the employment aspects of those costs at the moment.
right. I mean, again, I'm very conscious. We have these pre-bits. We do go through this thing quite a bit at those, so we've had a good check. Is there anything else you want to point us to in relation to papers A2 and A3 in terms of the accounts and the revenue outturn?
No, like I said, this is really the critical starting point to the statutory statement of accounts. It boxes off the report, so it's really important for commissioners to know what we finished the year with and how we're going to use those resources for future financial planning. And I think the recommendations there are to note the content of the report and agree the deployment of those reserves.
Yeah, okay, thanks for that. So we've got two reports. First one is that we received the ISA 260 report, and the second is we note the audited statement of accounts, so we agree with that unless someone disagrees. And then, as per your recommendations for report 3, we've got the recommendations identified box about the understanding transfer into the following reserve. Any of us disagreeing or dissenting from that? No. Great. Then moving on, which again staying with you on item 8.4 capital outturn, please.
So capital outturn, again, I won't go through this in detail. So what this report is trying to do for us is presenting the final investment position for 2024-25. So Appendix 1 will detail the investment schemes that we've got there. It's that final piece of 10.9 million is what we've actually spent. The overspend there of 1.8 million and the slippage of 10.3 million. So there's narrative in the report that gives an overview of the changes that have occurred since the last report was brought aboard in March. It provides a comparison of budget to the outturn position also, not just this report to previous reporting. It indicates how the investment is funded. And I think if you look at the bottom of Appendix 1, you can see that grant funding provides 20% of the financing of all the items sitting above. So I think the key things of this report is to note the information in there and approve the slippage into the new financial year. So I think what it means for commissioners and officers in particular is that we with that £10.3 million slipping forward, we're not looking for an overly ambitious capital submissions for 26-27 because that slippage is quite large. But what it does do for commissioners and officers is it allows us to reprioritise in the year should things change.
Okay, thank you. Yep. No. Kirsty.
I'm so sorry. You're too efficient, Veg, but I just wonder whether we should have heard from Audit Wales on the previous item.
I'm going to go back to that.
Oh, you're going to go
Williams.
back. Okay.
Yeah, so just want to cover off the 2 outturn reports first and then go back to the statutory accounts, if that's okay.
Yeah, sorry, I missed that. Thank you. Forgive me.
Okay, any comments or
No,
observations
happy.
on this? No, we're happy with it. Okay, back to you then, Lisa.
Okay, thank you, Chair. If we want to go back to page 43, this is the covering report for the statutory statement of accounts. Just going back.
Kirsty's right, because I did say we agreed it prior to you raising it from the local audit well. So yeah, carry on. Thanks.
Okay, so the statement of accounts document itself has been circulated. There was a draft early on in the process and an audited version has been circulated for information. This document is a statutory requirement and it complies with various legislation and also SIPFA guidance on how we prepare this information. It covers the period for the 1st of April 2024 to the 31st of March 2005. And otherwise known as a financial year, and it's important because it does provide formal public record that shows how the organisation has used public money over the year and also what the financial position is at the end of the year. So in that respect, it demonstrates transparency to taxpayers in terms of what the spending is, what the assets are that the organisation owns, what its liabilities are. It also demonstrates some accountability on behalf of the Fire Authority, otherwise known as the commissioners, in terms of, financial prudence. It provides some assurance as well. So what's really good about the statement of accounts is we've got that robust external view from Audit Wales. So they go through a rigorous audit process and provide an audit opinion on the quality of those statements. And overall, this just supports good governance in the organisation. It's like a report card for finance for the year for the organisation. And as I said, in terms of the outturn reports, it informs decision making for understanding the financial position and more pertinently sort of what the reserve levels are to be able to aid future financial planning and budgeting. So that's the actual document itself. It's quite hefty. And then as a separate piece to that, but supporting it, is the ISA 260 report, which is the Audit Wales Auditors report on that information. So I think at this point it'd be really useful to invite Jill Gillett into the conversation to run through the 260 report. Jill, is that okay?
Yeah, that's great. Thank you. Thank you, Lisa. I assume the report's been circulated to you. So this is just our audit of accounts report, which does summarise for you the main findings from our audit of your 24-25 financial statements. So we've carried out the audit in accordance with auditing standards, which really prescribe how we must undertake the external audit of a set of accounts, and also then in accordance with the audit plan, which we issued to you back in May 25. So we've substantially completed our audit work, but at the time of drafting the report, there were some tasks remaining, which you may have noticed on page 4 of the report. These have now been completed with the exception of our IT controls works, which we're in the process of finalising, and we don't expect that will identify any issues material to the opinion. But there are some matters that we are required to report to you before you approve the accounts, there were 2 uncorrected misstatements. They're detailed on page 8. which relate to depreciation of land and also an incorrect floor area being used to revalue one fire station. These aren't material to our opinion, but they are above our trivial level, so we're required to report them to you and required to put an explanation for not adjusting these in the letter of representation. I'd like to say then that the accounts are to a good standard and well supported, but there were some misstatements in the draft accounts which have now been corrected in the final version you've just received, and these are summarised in Appendix 2 on page 17. So it's a positive report, and the Auditor General intends to issue an unqualified opinion once we've received the letter of representation, which is set out in Appendix 4. And also the proposed audit opinion is set out in Appendix 3. And it just reflects well on the authority to have an unqualified opinion. Just like to take this opportunity then and to thank the finance team, Lisa and the rest of her team, for their help and support in providing us with the audit evidence we've needed throughout the audit process. Once again, it's a positive report and I'm happy to take any questions. Thank you.
Thank you for that. I appreciate I hadn't asked you earlier to comment, but thank you for coming in then. I think the word we always look for in these things is unqualified. So as long as we get an unqualified report, then that's a positive. There's a colleague for observations, comments.
Just obviously, Gillian, anything from you over the last couple of 3 sets of accounts that you think are themes that we need to be aware of, and that might be a yes or no. And I suppose the second point is just a kind of, you know, Lisa, I know I'm with pressure that your team has been under over the last 6 months with a lack of stability. So a great achievement to get to this point. So well done to you and the team, please.
Now, there aren't any real themes, I suppose, sort of, you know, across the local government bodies, not just fire. We do normally find issues with fixed asset revaluations because it is a complicated area, and we have found a couple this year here, but that's not unique to South Wales Fire. We generally find issues with property, plant and equipment valuations across the piece because it is complicated. But no, we haven't identified any particular themes or weaknesses within South Wales Fire. As I say, you know, the accounts were prepared to a good standard, and Lisa and the team have been very cooperative in helping us to complete the audit.
Right, Chief.
Yeah, if I may, firstly, thank you very much, Gillian, and also I reiterate my thanks to Lisa for all the work that you and your team have done. I just want to highlight something. You can see 2 or 3 references in both of these documents to the joint control. And putting money on one side of that. Just like before we get any rumours going out there, because this is a very sensitive issue because it's a 3-way control system that we've got going on down in Bridgend. There are no preconceived notions at the moment about what we're actually doing. We have a recommendations paper which Dean is very close to finishing. We're doing a whole load of costing. And the recommendations range from do nothing right way through to more radical solutions to some of the issues that were identified in the Fenella Morris report. I just want to underline, given that this is a public forum and that we've got 2 other services that are dealing with this, that we do not have a preconceived plan here.
Okay, great. Thanks. So we note that and we can approve the statement of accounts report. Anyone? Perhaps just next time we do this would have been easier. This one had been the 3rd item in this little trio. It flows naturally at the end, doesn't it? Anything else, Kirsty? You okay? Yep, great. Thanks. Moving on then to item 8.5, the strategic policy. How long have you been?
6 months.
Right, this plan has been around for quite a while, 3 years, so I think we can't hold it to too much.
If I can then deliver the strategic equality plan update, and this report is for decision. So it provides an overview of the updates that have been made to our current strategic equality plan 23 to 26, which is in line with our statutory duties. But we note that it contains outdated information with regard to both our vision, mission and values and regarding the South Wales Authority. It's been identified that we need to update the report to reflect the service as it is today. So this is what the content of the report is. And it also shows that we're still working toward the quality objectives within the service, and we're making significant progress against them. Okay, so down to point 2, issue and proposal. What we've included now is a new forward from our Chief Fire Officer, and the forward has been approved by the CFO. We've also replaced the outdated information regarding the South Wales Fire Authority with information now about the role of commissioners and the new vision, mission and values page within our updated strategic equality plan. All of this helps us to align the recommendations from the Morris report to ensure that we've got both a coherent approach and inclusive approach to the actions. So 2.5 staff demographic information has been updated to reflect the service as of 31st of March 25. And given the improvements made in our data collection since the initial publication of the plan, the data set is more accurate. For example, we've now aligned our categories to the census, and that enables us to collect data and to be far more efficient with it. Our equality objectives remain the same, but we are starting work on our next equality plan. So moving on to 2.2, which is progress against the actual objectives. So we relaunched the Services Inclusive Workforce Group. We've also increased capacity in our neurodiversity partnership network, and we've had a series of guide champions that are now working together as a network. As part of that, they've been trained and everyone's been shown the actual kits that they can use, such as the Do It profile. So there's been general training support. There's been an introduction of the Culture and Connections Board and the Independent Advisory Group to ensure that we've now got more involvement at a strategic level. And we're moving on to the second of its equality objectives. We've advanced accessibility at some of our sites using refurbishments, and changes have been made to the equality impact assessment process to enable us to meet the demands and standards of being an inclusive employer. 2.23, we've introduced the Taking Care of Behaviours training package, and this is helping us further to embed the culture of equality, diversity and inclusion across the South Wales Fire Service. On our fourth equality objective, we've had EDI induction training once individuals have been promoted to ensure that all of those in leadership are leading by example. And we've published the Services Culture Statement, which shows that there's significant progress of championing EDI across the service. We've looked at how we work on our demographic information generally to make sure that we're collecting more and it's more efficient in the way it's being held. And we've given interview panel training and tailored recruitment activity to underrepresented groups. We've had individuals working in Butetown, and we've also had things such as Work Out with a Watch to increase and encourage females to come in and to do that exercise plan and to make sure that they're aware that it's a service that they would very much enjoy working in. Finally, the updates to key procedures have been taken, such as introduction of agile working, improvement of paternity leave, that's now 12 months at full pay, and we've introduced a menopause procedure and risk sample. Community and engagement. The service is ensuring use of inclusive language within documentation, and this document evidences our ambitions under the Equality, Diversity and Inclusion, as well as Welsh Language, Wellbeing and Future Generations Act and Socio-Economic Duty. The service understands the importance of equality impact assessments, such as impact assessment on the Strategic Equality Plan. That's now been done, and the Strategic Equality Plan will be translated and published in Welsh language. The strategy and the service now understand the importance of consultation, and the Strategic Equality Plan has been through this process. The service is now making sure that it adheres to all the relevant acts and legislation, including, of course, the Equality Act 2010. We're striving to meet as many of the Morris Review recommendations as possible in a timely and consistent manner. And these recommendations have been aligned to our strategic quality plan objectives. Resources, assets and delivery. There is a strain on the People Services Department to deliver consistent high-end services in relation to the ongoing and ever-evolving DICE agenda. But the service recognises that meeting our strategic equality objectives may require capital investment. The service recognises the impact on all departments to achieve our impact, and People Services will support these departments in making inclusive changes. Finally, for the evaluation and conclusion, the actual plan has been updated to continue to meet our legislative requirements. We should publish this to ensure that the public have full confidence that our plans are aligned and that we remain active and moving forward with our recommendations. Are there questions?
Comments, observations? When it goes to, you're going to be refreshing, some work is already going to start to refresh if it goes to 26. So
We're already future planning for that.
yeah. Alison, anything you want to add?
No, just thank you to Tanya for presenting, because Matthew's gone to a Pride NFCC event this afternoon. So thank you for stepping in.
Yeah.
I think we are on a journey. I think the diversity data for me is an area of focus. We are doing all that we can to communicate to our people like some of the have up-to-date diversity data, because it informs our policy development. It helps us shape the service going forward. But I think that's a campaign that we need to keep running with.
And I just add to that, because of the diversity data and the communications that we've done, we've had a 50% drop in one of the, in a good sense, we found gaps in our service knowledge, and we've been able to reduce that. That's thanks to the comms campaign and then continuing impact. So we can see distinct increases, which is good.
Great. Come.
Firstly, thank you, Tony. Really grateful. And I recognise this is we've talked about this is a moment in time document, isn't it? To update it, which is really important. I think the future is really important. And you know, I know I've talked about it before, the aspiration and where do we want to be, and you know, for 26 to 30, I think it's a real opportunity to be aspirational around where we want to be in this organisation and be truly representing the communities that we serve, and making sure we got the right people working with us. And a bit of an offer as well. I attended the second of the Welsh Government workplace harassment and practical toolkit workshops. I managed to get it out in one go. They want organisations to support and help them, and I've volunteered us. So I mean, not as I meant you asked. But no, it felt like a good opportunity to be involved in that work from the start rather than receiving a toolkit at the end of it. So yeah.
Okay.
I know there were a number of comments made in the pre-meeting about this, which we
Yeah, and I noticed the change in the data has been updated.
yeah, the 81 and 19.
Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you very much for picking us up the last safe moment and bringing it forward. I look forward to the revised documentation when it comes out. Right, moving on to reports for health and insurance. To 9.1 and health and safety wellbeing. Is that the thing?
I think the early manager.
It's myself. Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon, everyone. Happy to provide an update on the Health and Safety Wellbeing Annual Report for 24-25. Health and Safety team has continued its work driving South Wales Fire and Rescue Service to be as safe as it can be, in a continually evolving and challenging environment. The team has focused its work on key aspects, including supporting and reviewing service-wide risk assessment processes for critical activities. This ensures that our staff are safe when they undertake critical, often life-saving activities. Facilitating and assuring accident investigations. This ensures that when accidents or near misses happen, they're reviewed and key learnings are taken from them. And delivering training to key members of staff, and engaging and consulting with external agencies and organisations with the aim of continuous improvement. Key takeaways from the report include accidents reduced by 12% on the previous year, a reduction in injuries resulting in over 7 days lost from the workplace by 45%, a reduction in total days lost from 1,845 the previous year, 452 in the recent This is a decrease of 76%, and 7 RIDDOR reports submitted. This is the lowest in the previous 5 years. Sprains and strains are the most common injury types, followed by aches, pains, cuts and abrasions. Manual handling is the highest cause of incidents. Routine duties is the most likely time that injuries take place, 18 for the year, as opposed to operational incidents which only accounted for 8 injuries. The health and safety team have been able to identify and respond to trends such as kitchen safety. A training video was created to ensure that those using kitchen areas have guidance on how to do this as safely as possible. In 24-25, there were 91 near misses submitted. This is a 90% increase on the year previous, a clear indicator of a positive and improving health and safety culture. With a look to the future, activities include a focus on team development. The health and safety and wellbeing team has been affected by staff issues. Now fully staffed, the team can focus on its development and ensure it's fully effective and having a positive impact on the health and safety and wellbeing of the service. Completion of an updated risk assessment library and associated processes. Training for staff, both virtual and face-to-face. And implementation of a new health and safety wellbeing management system, which will include a redeveloped accident investigation process. In summary, it's been a challenging period for the health and safety and wellbeing team. However, there are some very positive takeaways for the team over the previous year. That concludes the update. I'm happy to take any comments or questions.
Okay. You got questions?
You go first.
Yeah, you go first.
I always feel guilty because I'm taking points away.
No, because I'll just cross them off if you go through it.
So, just the near miss, first of all, I think it's really, really positive to see that rise. It still feels quite low. Is that your kind of view about that we've still got to push in that area?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Proportionately, we should be seeing a lot more near misses, and that's indicative of a couple of different things. People understanding what the near miss process is and how valuable it is, and even recognizing a near miss when it does occur as well, not just passing it by. So that's for us and the health and safety and wellbeing team to make sure that we promote that agenda to make sure that the entire organisation is aware of the issues.
So definitely a learning piece there, do we think?
Absolutely.
Is there anything just on that? Is there anything about how it's reported? I mean, everyone carries a smartphone. Is it a bureaucratic thing to report a near miss, or is it an easy thing to report a near miss?
Relatively easy. We've got 2 different ways of reporting. One is just a simple phone call to control, and they can get information to the health and safety team immediately. And the second one is through our online 24/7 process as well. So what we try and do is say that if it's a serious incident, then just report it to control immediately. And then if it's something that's not so serious, something falling off a shelf that could have hit someone, that can go through the 24/7 system.
If I may, I'd like to pile in on this particular issue. So thank you very much to Steve and the team for the work that they're doing to increase that number. But there's a leadership thing for every single person in this room. And just the other day when I was in with the headquarters, I was highlighting, look, it's not just firefighters and it's not just operational stuff. This is every single thing that might arise right the way across the organisation. And actually small things that you don't even recognise are a near miss, report them, because they start adding up. You know, it could be that you nearly stab yourself in the finger with a knife while you were washing up. Well, actually, we've got figures in that particular area where we've had quite a few people stab themselves in the finger, for example. Well, if you nearly did it, then that adds to the picture of why is that taking place. And there are plenty of things: driving, wandering around the building, things falling off shelves, things happening in office space. People often don't even recognise as being near misses. So a big plea from me here is please pass it to all of your teams. The other thing I think that's really important about this is that allows us to start building bigger pictures. A 95% increase really pleases me because this ties into the just culture that we're trying to build in the organisation. So I'm really pleased with that, but let's really supercharge it so that people gain more trust in the fact that you report, and guess what? We don't come chasing you. It's all part of building a just culture.
And the second point, if you don't mind, is that really, really positive around the total days lost, isn't it? Because the more days that we have lost, the more capacity we've got to deliver a better service to the community. What's driving such a huge, because that is a big difference, isn't it, from 1900 to 400? What's been the major driver still?
I'm not sure I can answer that, Commissioner. That probably requires a bit of a drill down and a deeper dive into some of the causes, and certainly a look at the previous year as well. And probably what we're seeing is you'll get some injuries which will require a significant amount of time off, which contribute to the total number and have a significant impact. And if we're not having those really serious injuries that require a significant amount of time off, that will have a dramatic impact on the overall days. But
I don't want to add extra work, Dean, with the team and everything, but would that be available at some point?
Yeah, if I can jump in there, Commissioner, just to support Steve a little bit. So the days lost, I mean, there was at least 6 incidents last year where we had 6 individuals off for more than 100 days. So it accumulates up to a vast amount of days. Whereas in the current last year, financial year, so we only had 1 individual off for more than 100 days. So we saw a significant decrease, which accounts for a large portion of those days as well. But drilling down into the detail, that's something we can provide quite easily through the health and safety team. And maybe that's something we can pick up with commissioners and provide you a more detailed report on those days lost.
Okay, great. Just a couple of it. You're right about the limits. I think that's really, really important because it's usually like a pyramid. And the pyramid of the iceberg, and it's so much under the mine. I guess the previous iteration of this report, they talked about the fire cadets, and they'd had a number of accidents related to boots. I'm glad that's been resolved and dealt with. Because the good answer to just look at was the against the All Wales group. Because 3 brigades are a very different size. In some we are less in numbers than say North Wales, which would mean that we're performing even better because of the pro rata, and others. And I just wonder whether you all. I understand why I've got some All Wales comparisons, but to make it really meaningful, it's about trying to get family group. So brigades of a like size or a similar sort of disposition, so that we can see whether we are really good in class as opposed to just comparing ourselves against the next geographical brigade. That's one thing. So I think I know we did try to get hold of family group brigades and we haven't had the response that we wanted. And you want to deal with that first and I'll come to the second one.
With the family group, so what I would say is we've got a new lead in the health and safety team, and so we can that's James Jones, and we can ask him to prioritise this now for the coming months and year, just to look at how we benchmark ourselves against other services, and so it's obviously a healthy thing. Obviously, you've seen some significant variables across some of the data year by year, and some of those things are just individual circumstances, but we certainly want some reassurance that we are performing well against the wider industry.
Right. And I did, sorry,
Yes, sorry, Chair, just again, just to add a little bit to this, from a statistics team, from Wayne's teams, they reached out to the family group for counterparts, and we've done it on 2 occasions in the last 2 months, and we've had no replies back. So we've attended to on 2 occasions.
Yeah. Perhaps just to escalate that to whoever to speak with your office.
Which is disappointing.
Yeah, because they should be holding this data anyway. It's not that this data is unavailable. We don't want to get down the FOI thing, but it is data. That was one point. And the second bit, I spoke to your manager at the Fire Cadet Games, and we're finally just a conversation about realistic training and how close to the edge you can get in terms of taking people to realistic training, because having training which isn't realistic creates a false sense of security for people that actually, yes, I can survive in a compartment fine. It wasn't too bad when I did it at the training centre. And there is this balance between realistic training versus risk. And just wondering in terms of in here, what the approach going forward is going to be about how we don't really talk about our approach to realistic training. How do we ensure that our people, if we look at the Grenfell work, it's about people having training that enables them to understand what it is they're going to face. And one of the criticisms was that they didn't have the best training they possibly could have to have dealt with that. So how would you categorise our approach to realistic training?
Good question, Commissioner. And what I would say is a lot of that sits with our training department and the realistic training that we do. And obviously we're blessed with really well financed training centre with realistic real fire training scenarios. We've got excellent technical rescue training down in Cardiff Gate as well, and then quite a robust exercise structure for our stations to commit to as well, which pretty much presents to us all of the risks that we're likely to face in the public when it comes to emergency response. There will always be the odd incident which challenges us to our extremes, but you know, we've got quite a robust training structure in place, I believe, already.
Because sometimes people often say you can't do that because of health and safety, and then health and safety actually is an enabler, I think, rather than a restrictor, if understood and then used effectively. So
yeah, I'd like to add to that. At the moment, I've got a letter from Neil specifically about fire behaviour training, and that's going to go off to Dan Stevens requesting that the Welsh Government provide us with some support to reduce the cost that we would pay, because there's a whole fire behaviour training thing that we can do down at Cardiff. The other thing that's going on at the moment is we've just awarded, I think we're in a silent period at the moment, we just awarded the contract for the new risk system using the bow tie methodology. And the whole point of that is to allow you to analyse your risks and allow you to analyse the barriers and also the mitigations that you have in place. It allows you to look at it visually. The whole point of that whole system is to allow you to make better judgments on how much risk are we holding, what barriers do we have in place, and the whole aim of it is to allow you to do stuff, not to stop doing stuff. So a really good assessment of risk. That's why we're introducing that particular thing. And you know, people quite often get hung up on, oh, health and safety stops you doing stuff. No, it doesn't. Health and safety allows you to identify risks, to make decent decisions, precisely so that we get the best training possible. And that has to be as realistic as we can possibly do, without unnecessarily killing or injuring people.
Just if I may, Chair, just to come on what Steve said, training there. But we don't stand still. Some of what we're leading on the thematic reviews, our high-rise team, dedicated high-rise team. We've been really able to pivot now, where with confidence we can say we will be in the lead group in the UK. And we can evidence that by the fact that, and I'll get the data to show this, we've had numerous services come down to review our training centre and what we're doing with Dan Stevens, thematic reviews. We've had our staff go around the UK. Our high-rise team have been picked up by an international fire magazine about the realistic training we're doing down here, because every firefighter goes to a high-rise building in the University Hospital of Wales, and they simulate so far as reasonably practical.
Is that coal smoke?
Pardon?
It's coal smoke then.
Coal smoke, yeah, in that building. But in terms of, you know, the tactics for high-rise firefighting, not many fire services in the UK can do that. So we're seeing a load of people come to the UK from across the UK fire sector to see what we're doing down here, and that's gathering pace. And I'll finish by saying in the autumn we've got instructors from Australia and Holland coming to do some seminars with us down here in South Wales.
Interesting.
More on that.
And it goes beyond fire as well, doesn't it? So we have people coming from across the UK for instruction in water, for example, and we are seen as being really leading in that area in extrication as well. So
I think, was it Merseyside or Greater Manchester have got a new fire training centre, haven't they? Yeah, they've got quite a stone. I'll take it outside the meeting, but perhaps welcome to chat with you. We talk about the exercise, the training programme for exercises, small and large scale. I'd really be interested to see the scale and depth that goes to. So I'll put that outside.
of course.
Is that just personnel on that? Yes. Any other comments, observations to the health social report? No. John, moving on then, technical community safety.
Chair, recommendation is Commissioners note the report, provide an update on progress. And say community safety pretty pivotal in reducing risk within the communities, and we do it through home fire safety checks, educational programs, road and water campaigns, and targeted youth interventions. So I look at performance requirements. So performance requirements that across Wales and the ones which I mentioned. So between North Wales, Mid Wales and South Wales, we have to do 17 courses. As you can see, we contribute the most to those. As well as that, 2,000 children. So there are one-day interventions reflect in crimes and consequences. Home fire safety's target across Wales, 40,000, relatively low. 13,333 each. Our target this year is over 15,500. Of those, 65% should be high risk. But for 25-26, we've increased it further. So our target is just under 22,000. So we are increasing. So we've gone from a state of year in, year out, maintaining targets to actually pushing on a little bit more. Section 1.3 looks at our census data, which gives population for each service, but also looks at funding. So currently our grant funding, this is for equipment to do with home fire safeties. It was 1 million, this year's dropped to 900,000. So it's something we need to bear in mind going forward, how we cannot be over reliant on grants. They're great while they're here, but it has already decreased by 100,000. I know there's probably questions in relation to funding against population, and that is something which probably needs to be looked at a Welsh Government level. And that probably comes down to previous arrangements year in, year out between heads of services. And it's quite difficult to unpick, and that's why probably at a government level, it's probably the way to take that forward. Current approach to the home fire safeties, again, is very much been on the, we have this much money, therefore we will do X amount of properties. And I think we're now looking at it differently. So we're looking at what is our risk within South Wales and looking at the total sum of that risk, and then looking at what we would need to achieve visits to all those properties who need it. So it's a wholesale change. But we've got our work ongoing with service performance and communication. Section 1.4, technology and data recording. Again, like business fire safety, we are waiting for a computer system, CFMS, Community Fire Risk Management Information System, which we need in order to maintain our databases accurately. So at the moment, we've got different databases, SharePoint, Excel documents. It's not ideal, but it's what we have at the moment until such time, which it'll be probably another 12 to 24 months at the latest before we can embed that. In community fire safety, we recognise partnerships are key. So we've got a lot of work ongoing to increase our partnership working. And when I say partnerships, home fire safety is either coming through three ways, either generated after the fire where we visit properties that are involved in fire and the immediate properties around there. There's those from our partners, so they're already identified as high risk. They come into us, we carry out those visits. And the third one is directed list. Using Acorn data, and there's other extra data sets where we can identify those who are at the at-risk demographics. We have addresses where we can go and visit those properties. So there's more that we can do as a service, I feel, in that particular direction. And there is work ongoing. It's probably going to be a bit of engagement with our unions before we can really push out on that. There is a link so we know how many referrals we got coming in. Work is really needed in our hospitals, hospital to homes, charities, housing association, care providers, doctors, surgeries, etc. We know that at high risk, therefore we need further engagement with those. To help promote this, we've got a media campaign ongoing. I think I shared it with the commissioners last week and the Welsh Government. So really robust, working with Rian's team, lots of great work being done there, and it's due to be rolled out imminently. So issues. So again, this report is really looking for the gaps within the departments. I think it's important that you almost take a critical eye to see where we need to improve and how we can improve. So for us, it's about achieving all the recommendations from the HMIC FRS report. I've detailed those, I've allocated responsibility, and it's a monthly tracker to ensure that we complete those in a timely manner, much like the other reports that we've got ongoing, such as the AFA work. We have got a departmental strategic plan, albeit in draft, and I think it's just reviewing the feedback I recently received, looking at how we're targeting risk, taking a different approach to risk, and I'll rewrite that strategic plan And I've given myself until 1st of October to do it. Reviewing our approach to on-fire safety checks, mentioned that. Really crucial to any department is embedding KPIs and recording systems. I think before I got there, our recording systems and KPIs weren't up to the standard I would expect. So each department within on-fire safety now has specific targets that they need to hit. And I think HMI really identified the need for that as well. So it really bolstered what I was trying to do. Increasing our representation with regional, national working groups. Again, I'm chair of Safe and Well. So making sure that we're represented across the UK. And technology as well is one area in which we need to improve. I think currently they're going out, they're doing their work, they're using hard copies and then going back to the office and then duplicating work. I think it's not ideal. I think we need technology that we can do the work in the field, press send, it updates all our databases. While off that, again, probably links in with some of the work which we've got ongoing with Brian and ICT. So just to recap, we're making advances, but as you can see, there is room for improvement. But I think part of it is recognizing what we need to improve, and it's from a robust strategy to ensure that we have in place measures, timelines, and everything else we need to achieve those, and then we can report back. So, any questions?
The ones after me, saying.
I think I haven't got a hand up, that's why.
Did you want to go first?
No, that's okay. I don't mind. I'll take my questions off if you ask them. Don't you worry.
Oh, thank you.
I've got lots.
No, so Mike, really great for the report and really positive to see around that push to 22,000. You know what the final figure needs to be, couldn't know, but that aspiration I think is really, really positive. It really is. And then that identification of the total of the risk, I think it feels really important for us. I suppose there's probably a question for kind of the chief and more broadly around, do we need to start thinking about weaning ourselves off grant? Especially if there's going to be a challenging period of time, because grant's helpful if it's additionality, it's not helpful if it's core business. There's definitely a question there for us. I'm probably linked to that, and that goes that link of sums total risk is that demonstrating the value. It's very difficult, isn't it, to say we stopped this number of fires, but that demonstration of value feels like a very strong lever for Welsh Government and others when we go forward. So kind of my concern is see from this really. I don't know enough about the system, but it seems to be after the experience of the Merseyside, it's core to what we've got, but we're a million miles away from getting there to support the teams. And I suppose the question is, isn't it more broadly of how can we accelerate the delivery of that? Because if we don't, it feels like a big risk to the service. But that might just be my perception because I'm not very IT literate.
Okay, I need to go back.
You have to build the data sets up.
Yeah, absolutely. So I brought a paper recently about CFMIS, what is required and how best, or what is needed, first of all, to implement it and how we can support and drive it forward. So that work's been done in relation to a paper, which has led to a business plan, which I've recently completed. A few more tweaks in relation to the resource requirements, but that is out there, which will show what we need to do to bring it in quickly and effectively. But it is linked to a gas TS code sets. It's a lot of work and an implementation team. Again, the work is ongoing, so we can maybe show
that's the framework. You've got to populate it with.
Yes, it relies on data.
You're exactly right. So just if I may, Chair, just on that, because the Chief of Staff grabbed this one, so it's not just community safety data sets going there, it's the BFS business data sets, it's operational intelligence data sets got to go on there. So the Chief of Staff recognised that as a risk, and Mike's putting together a paper which looks at how we resource that properly, because we can fast track this if we resource it, or it'll take us 3 years to get to where we want to be.
And just to add to that, it will put us in a better position with HMI as well going forward of concern, because it's sort of got explained in there that it's something we need to address quite quickly. So we've got an extraordinary ELT on the 13th to look at this in order to invest and accelerate the programme on Source 6. So a good place for it.
That's it, thank you.
Was that your question, Kirsty, that you just asked? You've got other ones, I'm sure.
I've got others.
Far away.
Thank you very much. The first of all is to just have some clarity around what the governance structure is about monitoring the implementation of the strategic plan when it's finally finalised. So just being clear about where that is going to be reported into and what is the time periods around reporting about that would just be really helpful. As you said, Carl, the increase in the target is good to see, but clearly challenging. So 22,000 in the financial year, Mike. So we've just come to the end of the quarter. So how many have we delivered in that quarter, and what's your level of confidence that that target can be reached by the end of the year? So are we at the end of the quarter, are we on target to do that, or are we behind, or are we ahead? And I'm just wondering that clearly the risk that you've identified and therefore the targets that you would want to, get to first, are not uniformly spread across the service area, are they? Because that's lots to do with age, demographic, the demographic, socioeconomic profiling. So it's not a uniform spread. So therefore, how are we going to manage that workload whilst we work through the CRMP and the consequences of that? Because we'll be working with a structure that isn't necessarily aligned to the risk. And then, Carl, you're quite right. It seems crazy to me that we're asking teams to manage all of this on Excel spreadsheets, bits of paper, and making it really difficult for crews to basically do jobs 2 or 3 times over to get the information recorded. But I'm just wondering, so that's one clearly identified risk to the delivery of the programme. But I'm just wondering, Mike, what other risks have you identified to the delivery of the HMRC recommendations and the draft strategic plan? And what steps are you, the senior leadership team, and can we as commissioners identify to mitigate?
Okay.
Right, over to you, Mike. Sure, Brian will let you answer this one.
Yeah, okay. So if we look at the target, which you said, we've currently done 7,016 on fire safeties. That is the most up-to-date figure I have. So yeah, I'm quite pleased in relation to that. HMIC, I'd probably everything in the HMIC report, I think, is going to be monitored by Stu's department down the bottom there, using their new computer software. So I'm quite happy in relation to us achieving those within the time in which we said. I will apologise, Kirsty. There was so much there. I was trying to calculate as you were talking there, so I missed some bits.
I'm asking how, but I'm calculating too. So if you've done 7,016, actually you'll do more than 22,000. You'll do 28,064 by the end of the year if you carry on at that pace.
Yeah.
So that's very good news. I think we should put that in the minutes as an but no, I was asking about identifying risks to the programme. So we've identified the lack of a adequate IT system as a risk, and what I'm asking is, what other risks have you identified that we will need to mitigate as a service if we are to successfully deliver and implement the plan?
For me, it's just partnership working. It's my other biggest risk. It's ensuring that we have the number of referrals that we expect to be coming through, that our partnerships are working effectively, because we can be as well inundated. So it's having a measured approach to make sure that we are getting the right people targeted and we are able to cope with the demand. If we can't cope with the demand, the risk becomes us having a list of people which we have to hit in 45 days. We can't achieve it, becomes a risk to the organisation. So it's almost being able to turn the tap on and turn the tap off when we need to. And that is through going to PSPs, working with our partners to say, okay, we have enough at the moment. We will turn the tap back on when we need to. So it's having effective partnership working.
Okay, so rather than turning the tap on and off, because if somebody has identified a referral, you know, we can't reasonably expect them to sit on that risk, can we? Because of our inability to meet the demand. So, so I guess what that says to me, Mike, is that we would have to think about how we can meet the demand, because it seems unreasonable and counterproductive to ask partners to sit on risk which they have identified because we can't meet the demand. If there is a demand for our service, then I would argue we would need to flex our ability to be able to respond.
Yeah, I agree. We've always been able to flex. We've always got the capacity to perform the home fire safety as we need to. For us, it's making sure that those people who are being referred are of the risk level that we want. So I think it's even looking at how we measure risk, whether it's going to be very high, medium. It's looking at our criteria as well. So I think there's a lot of work that we can do to improve what we're doing.
So what you're talking about is the quality of the referral, ensuring that
Yes.
we're working with partners well enough to get good quality referrals.
Absolutely, making sure that our services are where they need to be for the people who are at most high risk.
Okay,
But
thank you.
Mike, if I may, what is the main limiting factor? Is it number of staff who do fire safety visits?
We use all of operations. So for me, it's just bear in mind there is capacity. Don't get me wrong, and we just freed up 42% of their capacity with the home fire. With the AFA work.
Yeah.
So we have the additional capacity.
It was 42% of the time that was spent on AFAs
Yes.
rather than 40%, 2% of their total available time.
Exactly. Yes. Apologies. Yes, you're correct. So for me, they've got the time, but what we've got to measure that in, they've got other duties such as training, which is a core requirement to maintain operational skill sets, but also their SSRI visits and familiarization, etc. So there's other works, just making sure that what we have, they can achieve, which they can.
I think maybe the challenge here is, given what Kirsty said online as well, maybe we have an ambitious minimum service standard that the public can hold us accountable to. So if we get a high risk referral, we will get to your house within boom, and we hold ourselves to that standard, and then we can then resource accordingly. So have a little think about that one, Mike. What would be a minimum service standard? If we get a phone from point of contact that's wanting to conduct that visit, and then we can hold ourselves accountable to that standard.
Right. Anything else on that, Kirsty?
Did we answer the question about how this is going to, what oversight, how we're going to keep track of this? Is it going to go to audit, or is it coming to transformation? Where are we going to keep an eye on implementation of this?
So we're talking about the plan, strategic plan for the department.
Yeah.
For me, I think it needs to go back to SLT first for scrutiny, and then from SLT, I'll coordinate with Wayne. We're the best group to go after that. Certainly SLT first.
And this comes from that.
Yes, and I'll work with Wayne to find out where it needs to go from there once approved at SLT.
Right. Okay. So I've just got a couple of observations. I think it's really important that we match targets to risk, because the danger is that we then go for soft targets to get the numbers up, and then we don't end up, it's the worst of all worlds. And it just shows how ridiculous the regimes have been previously, when they're equally divided up between the three brigades, when there's a complete disparity between each of the brigades, reflected certainly through the funding. And the 28,000 shows how much capacity was available within it. And I don't even think that we're way off full capacity. So that shows that we can really go for that. Also, I'd like to thank you for taking note of comments that have been made in previous meetings about how we approach community safety. I think there's still work that's going to come through with the CRMP, which is going to further inform how we deploy resources. But it's really pleasing to see that the discussions that we've had are starting to frame themselves in the report. So thank you for that. Anything else? No? Well, Mike, you're really popular at the moment, so we'll stay with you for the next one.
That's you've got another 10 questions.
Right, where to go, Mike?
Okay, again, the points for noting. Business fire safety, again, the department enforces provision of the regulatory reform fire safety order 2005. So again, when I'm looking at very much like I manage both prevention and protection, I think it's important that you have key performance indicators. And one of the real points to note is the department has not set individual auditing targets for inspecting officers. This was noted before the HMI report, but it reports that they are required, as they highlighted. So what we're now doing is exploring the best way to introduce performance targets as part of a revised risk-based inspection. To do that, we are visiting other fire and rescue services and meeting our NFCC representative to inform our approach. Our emerging preference is to adopt an annual target for the number of high-risk premises to be inspected, aligned to a 5-year rolling plan. So I think for us, it is identifying, much like within the home fire safety, where we're identifying those high-risk targets. It is a very similar approach here. We need to have a look in South Wales, identify all our buildings which are at high risk, and then work back. So what do we need resource-wise to target all those properties or premises within that 5-year rolling program? So that is the work that's currently ongoing. Section 1.3, technology and data recording. CFMS is absolutely pivotal to this. Again, much like community safety, in the interim, our recording mechanism is via SharePoint or Excel or systems such as EMIS. It is not ideal. It was highlighted by the HMI. And again, when they return in April, my fear is it will be flagged up again. Although we are making strides, we have purchased CFMS. And my paper showed that from June of this year, we got a system. So it's a test system which we are currently using. But what it does require, and it requires urgently, is a gazetteer. So at the moment, we don't have one, and that is a real risk. So there is possibility of using the Welsh Government gazetteer. Again, this comes back to the paper I've recently written, which highlights some of these issues. But if we can't, we need a decision rapidly on whether we can use that gazetteer. Because if we can't, we need to then look at purchasing one and making that a real priority. We do need system development. So we've looked at Midwest, we looked at Merseyside. Midwest had a dedicated manager looking over CFMS. Merseyside, they've used it for over 4 years, and it's taken them 4 years to really get up to speed with CFMS. So it highlighted a greater resource requirement than initially anticipated. Some of the flaws is they bring it into one department. So first of all, bringing it into BFS, you then moving it, it's going into community fire safety. But then what you find is business fire safety, I'm really quite got it up to speed. We now moved our focus of attention to community safety, and BFS are left struggling a little bit. So we've got to look at an implementation plan, which is what I'm working with the chief of staff with at the moment, to make sure that we don't have those same issues. Data integration and risk mapping. So again, effective cross-mapping of existing data, risk management, and FSEC coding. We need FSEC code. We're currently working with Midwest, who've given us all their codes, FSEC coding. So we're able to take those. It should work for South Wales. We've got work ongoing now, whether we can use those codes as they stand or whether we've got to adapt them slightly, but that will save us a significant amount of time. Section 1.4 focuses on partnerships, quite extensive partnerships. I won't go through those. Moving on to section 2, again, in the same way it did it with community safety. It is looking at what we need to improve and change within business fire safety. At the top there, achieving all the recommendations from HMICFRS. It is more of a concern than community safety because, again, it was a cause of concern. So our focus really needs to be on this, and it really stems back to a lack of a risk-based inspection program. And they come hand in hand with CFMIS, they come hand in hand with GASTIA and the code sets, etc. So it's all captured in that bit of work within HMIC, which is putting us at risk as a department. So it's got to be a priority for us as a service, not just as a department. Again, departmental strategic plans in draft, again, based on the feedback received, there will be some changes looking at a risk-based approach rather than what we can do as a department. I think we need a wider look at that. Part of our issue within BFS is the number of staff that we have competent, and that in development as well. But I think it's probably lends itself to a wider piece of work, which is our promotion and transfer process. I think that needs looking at, especially when we are trying to be as fair as we can in our promotional processes. If you are first, you will have the first vacancy that comes available. Or what you sometimes lose is those with the skill sets, which are your level 4 qualifications for BFS, they're now going into station command, etc. So it almost needs a review of our promotional processes, or needs to be factored into our promotional processes, how we promote into business fire safety, so we don't lose the skill sets. So again, it has a bearing on your risk-based, your capacity to do your risk-based inspection program. Other work that we got ongoing, corporate inspection officer proposals. We're looking at bringing in green book staff in business fire safety, but all uniform is not ideal. I think you need a certain percentage should be corporate members of staff. Paper's been finished, completed, so I will bring it to SLT shortly. Part of that work as well is training all supervisory managers to a level 2 qualification. If you do that, it then ties into commercial fire safety checks. You've got people on station then doing the commercial fire safety checks. So your premises, which are not the high risk premises, but they are important, especially for firefighter safety. As part of our drive with key performance indicators, once they're established, we're going to embed them, make sure that we hold people accountable to those standards as well, and develop our prioritized risk-based inspection program as soon as we can. All links to CFMIS and our enhanced technology. Again, what we need is technology, much like community fire safety, where people can do their work in the field and update it when they're out, rather than duplicating work. And that really closes, and I'll take any questions from there.
Okay. Kirsty, do you want to go first?
I think Mike in his presentation has answered the question. For me, it is the issue around what are we going to do to stabilise the staff, because we can't do the work unless we've got the people to do the work. And, you know, and about how we can, given what HMRC said about their surveys, how we can, you know, prioritise this in the work of the organisation going forward. But I think for me, it is to have some more meat on the bones, really, about how we're going to address the issue of workforce, because without them, we can't deliver. And clearly that is the biggest risk to this programme. That and the fact that we haven't got a properly functioning IT system that allows us to do what we need to do.
I kind of just reflected on Kirsty's point and Mike's really, does feel like it is a service risk, isn't it? We've identified this as a cause of concern for HMIC and RS. I think there is a real risk, and it's going to put somebody being around this table of, you know, that paralysis by analysis, isn't it? Because there are such big interconnected pieces here. We always spend our time waiting for one to land rather than trying to. I don't know how we take this forward, but it feels like it needs to be taken forward in a way that might we have to take bite-sized chunks out of it, really. And the CFMIS bit, which feels like that at risk. I do wonder about the police gazetteer, Mike. They have one. I don't know if they can share, willing to share, but it might be worth an exploration with South Wales Police to see if there is some opportunities there with their gazetteer. Because that won't be the same as the local government system because of the separate entities that they are. Might be read in.
Yeah, that's fine. I can explore it. Yeah, going back to your point, there are so many interconnected parts in relation to this. What I'm currently doing is mapping the whole process out. So much like the AFA process is itemizing all the actions that need to be completed, how they interlink, who's doing those particular elements of that role, and giving clear timelines. So I'm trying to map everything out so I know exactly what needs to be doing by whom and when. So it's part of why you've got to work.
It's a question, I suppose, really for the service to think about, isn't it? We've got limited programme management resource, but when you look at all the risks we've got across the services, it feels like one of the greatest. Do we need to kind of dedicate that element to what we don't need to do?
I mean, yeah, this is cause of concern territory. And we've got a digitization program that's going on. This is linked. And is CFMIS the only system we can possibly use, or other things that we use? Can we piggyback onto another? Given that we're trying to advance to get out of the whole of cause of concern, are we able to piggyback onto another CFMIS system that's already up and running or not?
No. We still have to populate
local data.
Yeah, it's got to be our data.
Yeah, it's the geographical data that the system needs in order to be able to operate, and that's why Merseyside, for example, they're 2 years in front, but they've just been at it, coding and data, sort of rich the system in order for it to perform appropriately. And that's the sort of
the upshot is there's a massive prioritisation.
Yeah.
So we'll take that away, and Mike, if you can raise that for SLT discussion, right?
So picking up on some of these points, that's about also moving existing resource within the organisation around from someone's doing a job in a particular thing, which involves sort of coding, to another part of the organisation.
It's what we do.
Coding, so can add to that. It's about coding. I think one of the paragraphs raises a problem and sort of answers it in the next part, which is about people. So on the one hand, if you're a watch commander in business fire safety and you get promoted, you're taking all your skill sets and going probably out to a station.
Yeah.
And yet we have stayed with familiar old structures of uniformed staff in fire safety when we could have 19, 20-year-olds, 21-year-olds straight out of university with degrees in fire engineering coming in who could see a career path and keep their skills within the department. I'm glad that report's coming in August because it's really, really important that we get on with this, because otherwise we're going to try to make a system that doesn't work, and we've not been able to get it sorted. So I think the people part is really important, as Kirsty mentioned. Software is really, really important because we're pinning a lot of faith on CFMIS. It has to network with other systems because we've got double data entry systems all over the place. We need to really, we're looking towards the IT department to provide whatever resources needed. And temporary, can we get resource from our external to come and provide technical support to sorting this out, getting it embedded? Because until we get the data sets loaded, we then can't roll it out to the department. And then fire stations are a long way down the line before they're contributing towards the system, which is how we want to hold all of this together.
Again, I'm hoping the paper will identify what we need. I'm doing it now, the resource requirements. My thing is, I've got to return back to them to go, I know what they require, but whether it's enough for us to fast forward to where we need to be. I think we may need to invest more resources than what we probably originally anticipated.
So I guess it's a broad point, which is we're just talking about all the resource that needs to go to get CFMIS on. Shortly, we're going to be looking at CRP systems. That's going to take a whole load of resource and stuff to get that up to speed. We've got the fire cover review going on. That's going to take a load of data. So we've got a small number, reasonable number of skilled people who are going to be fully at it. And then we're going to have a shortfall of capacity to deliver all of these programs. So I guess it's one for the exec team to look at how they allocate additional resource.
No, that's a very valid point, Chair. And Just to give you, because it's come up a number of times, so there is a relevance to what Mike was talking about, the digital transformation. So the Chief of Staff and Chris Williams and myself have really grabbed this, and we're working on a not-for-profit organisation. We've had a really productive meeting with them in the ICT this week. But just to give you an idea of what we're talking about here, the team in headquarters are fully engaged with this. And when we out and ask them, what do you need your organisation is going to make you more effective and efficient? We've had 14 pages come back, 14 pages, in addition to all the asset replacement software programs that ICT are looking at. So what we've challenged Alacrity to come up with is help us develop our digital backbone, our digital strategy, our cyber security. What are the quick wins? Because they did say we can already see there's some quick wins if you as an organisation, and where there's going to require a bit of time, effort, money, and investment. So we're waiting on them coming back to us, and then Jake and myself and Chris will hopefully move at pace once Alacrity comes back with that. Those sort of.
We should have a scoping paper from them roughly by the end of August to sort of set the conditions of what that looks like going forward.
All right. So there have been a number of questions raised, which will be in the minutes and sit as outstanding actions for the subsequent meeting. So we're going to be able to keep.
Yeah, I think to keep momentum on the CPMS, obviously we've got this paper going through ELT for a decision to resource it, which you'll get the final outcome of that anyway. Okay. We're going to get after that in future.
Okay, great. Anything additional on this? Right. Moving on then. Leadership Academy, George.
Leadership. So since the update in the report there, we've had some quite significant progress anyway. So the primary function of the Leadership Academy was to provide the service with leadership behaviour and culture input from the get-go. So our current programs, we've had a few programs in development and are nearing completion. The first one is a crew manager induction. So that is going to be flipped. It's extended to 2 weeks. The first week being all the leadership behaviours and behaviour performance input, culminating in a practical leadership application at the Green Mile. If anybody doesn't know what the Green Mile is, everybody seems to be grinning around the station, around the table. The Green Mile is well, it offers quite a lot from resilience experience all the way through to fire and ice and things like that. So it's quite an interesting sort of icy water plunge followed by a sauna and stuff like that. But the recruits course currently use it, and they use it as part of their resilience training as well. So they will have that. The reason that we brought that in, the leadership element will be before any of their crew manager input, because at the moment they have their crew manager input and then they're spat out onto the station before they've had any of the leadership input. So by the time when they get crash land on the station, it is now impossible to get them out of the station, off the rota, to come in for their leadership training. So we'll be bringing in the leadership element before. The instructors leadership and delivery training. So that's for newly appointed instructors. That's also a 2-week course. The first week again being with the leadership behaviours, human performance input, also with the resilience experience. And then the second week will be with an AET course at CAVOC. And again, the reason that the AET is second is because traditionally, as soon as they've had their AET, they get absorbed into the training roster. And then again, it's impossible to get them out of the training roster in order to come and have all their behavioural input. At the moment, we have a current cohort of instructors that aren't qualified in AET. And so, believe it or not, the first time that we can actually get them off the rota and onto an AET is November, December into a split course. Yeah, so that's how busy the training department is at the moment. Before that, I'm working with the L&D department now to try and get those instructors that will be on that AET course to have their leadership input first before they go on that. So we're trying to get the continuity there, always having, and the culture around always having the people element first before we go into anything that actually qualifies anybody to do anything. The same thing with the crew manager, they have all of that before they do the instant command as well. So instant command, traditionally speaking, they would pop out on the station. So all this requires a lot of coordination between ops and non-ops as well, and how they come off the rota and get released into these things as well. So it's all part of a very broader picture. The initial recruits induction and new starters. So New starter as in non-operational as well. So the extra time has been scheduled at the start of the recruits course to front load the leadership and cultural behaviours input, and a version of this will be rolled out to all non-op starters as well. So I believe there's a version of non-ops, so they have a leadership. So Dan, you had an induction, didn't you? So yeah, for all new starters that are non-ops. So the leadership program. So we currently have the Pioneer program. And so that's very much that's for senior leaders. So looking towards the future now, we're looking to make that way more robust and more pressure testing in it as well. So at the moment, we obviously have ILM. So ILM is sort of an off-the-shelf package that we can give out. So we currently have 5 and 7. We don't have 3. We've been looking at 3. So we have an ILM, but it's off-the-shelf package and it's not terribly bespoke to any fire service. And it doesn't have a lovely golden thread going through all those leadership and behaviours. So we're actually looking at different applications to bring in. For example, Pearson's just one of the things that's on the table at the moment. So we can have it more bespoke. So what will happen then is that we'll have we'll be able to input our own leadership behaviours and values into that programme, which means we can have the same heading, so to speak, but then we have that thread going from crew manager, watch manager, and then station manager, group manager, and then group manager, area manager and above. So we have that same golden thread going on through it. We have continuity and consistency. However, as you go up through the progressions, those topics are then reinforced and made more specific to the level of role, responsibility, risk that you have within your service. So that is what we'll be working on in the future. So I've also been working on branding and identity as well for the Academy. So there's obviously the Cardiff Gate now has just had its branding. Which looks great, and whoever did that, hats off. It looks wonderful, especially the lovely blue screen up on the first floor there. It's really striking, and it's very easy to read as well. So as the Academy, obviously we want to be looking towards a bit more branding for us as well, because the Academy, we are the Academy, L&D training, everything, it comes under one banner now. So having that rebrand of what the Academy feels and looks like for the rest of the service, I think will help with some trust issues that we have currently going across the service, as well as that what's happening with the Academy, what's happening with the service and everything like that. So the Just Culture Doctrine that I did was one of the first things that I did to try and get that, to bring that trust forward within the Academy, within the training department, within the rest of the service as well. So the frameworks and doctrines. So I've done a leadership framework from which we will hopefully hang all of our operating models off. I've done a broad line operating model for the Academy. However, we do have a current operating model for our training, for our ops training. But when we actually did a process map for that, it was so overly complicated, and there's a lot of replication and duplication on the promotions timeline that it was becoming more evident that we needed to tidy that up as we were moving forward. So although we wanted to roll out all of these fantastic leadership initiatives and everything like that, it became really evident that we needed to sort that out first. And also on the non-op side and the corporate side, that operating model doesn't currently exist, or not one that we can actually apply. So as I said, the Academy is for everybody, so that's ops and non-ops. The one and very main thread voice that I've had through my 2 months in post is from the corporate side is, does this include us? So it's really, really important that we absolutely nail that operating model from the non-operationals on the corporate side as well. So in the pipeline at the moment, well, it's actually got a fixed date now for the masterclass videos. So the plan is complete, and we're going to be filming masterclass videos on the 5th of August in headquarters in the Broom Cupboard, and we've got 3 participants coming in. So it's a very relaxed atmosphere. We are getting to know the person behind the role. So what is another mainstream throughout the entire service is they've only got one job. What do they do for a living? I've gone to them, and X, Y, Z. So people quite often see what the role or the rank. They don't see the individual behind the job. So that is the initiative behind that, is getting to know the individual behind it. So at very much a concept stage, and this is my concept. So it's the academy having its own, potentially having its own landing page. So, and that helps with the brand and identity as well. So our current system means that the training pages are 3 clicks for L&D, 4 clicks to get to the masterclass pages, and 5 clicks to get to the prospectus, and 7 clicks to get to the neurodiversity referral form. So I think we can all agree that's particularly clunky at the moment. So my proposal will aim to reduce this considerably. It raises the profile of the academy and reinforces that the academy is a place of excellence. And the academy initiatives such as Mentor Me, a mentor program that we'll be bringing in as well. So it'll be really easy to reach those things. A mentor that you will find, you know, across the entire service, somebody that you trust, etc., etc. And the video masterclasses will be there on the landing page, and all the interviews can be accessed easily. Just looping back to what we said about promotions into the academy and how we get a better level of instructor within the academy. So there have been 8 expressions of interest for which we'll be interviewing. And so the interview process is pending. So that's just about to happen. 5 of which will be successful, 3 of which will come through into the academy, 2 of which will be put onto a placeholder, and they will be given all the bits and pieces that they need to improve on. And I think having that extra interview, so I know at the moment that firefighters, crew managers come into training school because there's no other option, because it's the last thing on the list, and training school has notoriously been associated with something that people just want to transfer out of very, very quickly, or use it as a springboard into another department to get their ranks quickly. We want to cut that thread and make it a place of excellence and make it a place that people actually want to come to. So having this added interview stage to come into a training school as an instructor, I think reinforces the fact that it's a place of excellence. And if you're coming in just for the 6.5%, then hopefully in that interview process, that will sound that out completely. Summary is, so I'm working on a 2, 5 and 7 year plan. So obviously what we've got at the moment is very low hanging fruit. So we've picked that and we're implementing things very, very quickly in order to get the leadership element in and up and running. But the 2, 5 and 7 year plan is the more ambitious plan, is the one where we look outside of the service to bring in the big high end items, the big budget items, things like that. And although we can deliver an awful lot of it ourselves at the moment, it would be wonderful to actually bring other people in as well, other people that have amazing experiences of leadership. So having a symposium, annual or biannual symposium where we bring people in and talk about the culture of leadership, how it's for everyone and things like that. So just to reiterate, so we've got some flagship programs. So that's the Leadership Golden Thread program. So that's for next year. We have externally accredited leadership programs. So it's either going to be the ILM or Pearson. So they'll be made more robust. Resilience experience. So believe it or not, so the adventure-based training was having some negative feedback I was getting from the corporate side. So on the corporate side, thinking they were going to have to go and carry a really heavy telegraph pole up and down slopes and things like that. So I've now reframed it as a resilience experience. So it's not just carrying a damn big flagpole or telegraph pole up and down a muddy bank. It is about, challenge-based training to grow your resilience. And that is graded to, again, your level of responsibility and risk within the service and your ability as well. So your physical and your mental ability as well. So Crew Watch and Watch Manager Leadership and Instant Command Programme, obviously front-loaded with the leadership element. The Recruits Initial Leadership Programme, front-loaded again. So before they even crash land onto the drill ground, they have all of their leadership input and the video masterclasses as well. So I've rattled through quite quickly. And any questions?
Right. Kirsty?
No, thank you. That's very comprehensive. Thank you very much, George.
Right. So I'm glad you raised the thing about the duality of opportunity for corporate and uniform staff, because I think it's something that's raised in the Fenella Morris review, and we need to make sure that we address that. And also the point about the excellence in promotion, because I think in discussions about, you know, who gets the cream of the crop and how does it work its way down? You know, do we get the training centre should be an aspirational thing. If you look at farming analogy, you plant your best corn, don't you? If you're going to get a bigger crop, you don't plant. Yeah. I think I've got one sort of question then. Thank you for all this. You've been there 2.2 months, did you say?
Yeah.
And there's a huge amount achieved here. I kind of know the answer to the question, but I think I want to record it. Do you have the resources and the budget you need to deliver this job?
No. So I don't have a budget. I'm a department of one. So although I'm working really closely with the L&D team and our training department, I don't currently have a budget for that now.
Okay.
So if you don't mind, that links probably into a question I got, which is, George, we recruit watch managers and JOs down there to deliver operational training. That's why they go down there. So do we want our JOs down there now, instructors, to start doing some of the leadership training?
Yeah, so people who are already in the cohort of delivery, so they will have to come in and have their AAT. So this is the difficulty. Once people are already embedded in the system, it's pulling them out of the system and getting them off the rota and coming in to do that. This to the AT. So if they're involved in any instructional delivery at all, they have, just for litigation purposes, they have to have their AAT. Basically, that supports us as an organisation then, and then they will have. So it probably have to be fragmented and split into two because it is a 2-week programme. So having the leadership input, so they have the leadership input. On station. However, that demands resources from the L&D team who do all the delivery, and then AAT is delivered by CAVOC. So it depends when those CAVOC courses become available. So there's actually quite a lot of not flexibility, but there's a lot of availability within CAVOC to have those delivered. So we can start rolling those out as soon as people start becoming available.
So yeah, with just the extension of the question was, so when we have JOs down Cardiff Gate, are you going to be leaning on them to deliver your leadership training, L&D leadership training, or are they going to be still doing the operational stuff?
No, so L&D will deliver the leadership training because
I think people might have got confused with that, you know.
Okay.
Because what I would have said then is we need to have a conversation about that resource model we talked about earlier.
Yeah.
Because we're already low, just to deliver the operational training we need to deliver. So
yeah,
that reassures me then.
So basically, if we did have the JOs delivering the leadership program, so there's a lot in there that's very specific information that only the L&D team are qualified to deliver. Plus the fact if we had, they are bombarded with a lot of ops stuff as well, ops updates. So to be able to bring in all the leadership updates as well, that's a lot of work for them. And yeah, and also if we started having the JOs delivering all the leadership elements, then what does the L&D department do?
So
glad we made that distinction.
Yeah.
Really good.
if I can step in here, George, what I'd quite like you to do is to go away and look at what is the actual requirement in human days or in humans that you need to do that delivery.
Okay.
Okay, and we will discuss that in the very near future because I've given you some timelines there. They're actually pretty aggressive. So full operational capability 1st of December. In order to meet that, already we're up against that timeline for recruiting and stuff like that. And is it a recruiting thing? Is it that you need people who are doing partial things because they're not going to be employed the whole time, or do you need them the whole time? That is a question that I would quite like answered. All right, and then Jake, if you can make sure that is added into the next ELT, so that would be a priority that I'd like you to examine in the next couple of days.
Yeah. Neil's done that analysis for the JO, so it'll be really handy for that. So it's like, how many hours do we need to deliver all this training? How many instructor hours have we got? And then get it plus or minus. And it's a minus, obviously, in this case.
Yeah.
Great.
Very good. Excellent.
Well, thanks very much for that. Appreciate it. Is it your first time that you've come and presented on this? Yeah. So I hope it was an okay experience. And
Is there a feedback form?
I think you were reassuringly blunt.
Yes. Well, I think I got the job because I was blunt.
I like it. I like it.
Yes, no, stuff is well appreciated.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. Okay, moving on then, we've got a couple of, you're going to be talking to this by now, aren't you? Because we're moving on to the InfoGov and we're even I'm confident I've got the infograph managed behind it, so we do need to.
You have, yeah, and I think we did agree at the meeting that these are just 2 reports for information and assurance. I can be very, very quick with them. The 2 reports, they're part of a series of reports where we agreed to provide commissioners with some background, and some overview to some of the other teams in the organisation and what we do. So just to provide a bit of context, really, when we talk a lot about the operational side of the organisation and a lot of the things you know exist, these are just to provide some brief overviews of some of the other teams out there. So both reports, one of them is for the information governance and compliance team, information governance team, and one is the legal and insurance teams. The reports, like I said, they're very brief. They give an overview of the structure of each team, the staffing, their core business, their areas of improvement, and then some of the risks and challenges those teams will face. And they're very similar in terms of some of the issues there. So you'll notice in both reports, they're both very small teams, 3 or 4 members of corporate staff in each. And you'll notice as well, there's a key role in each team. So one of the roles is the services data protection officer, as highlighted within law. And you've obviously got the legal services manager and the legal and insurance team support. Very key roles. I then go in to talk a little bit about their core business, and you probably imagine the information governance team is to look at data security, data protection, to respond to freedom of information requests and data subject matter requests. And you've also got the legal and insurance team to manage obviously all our insurance claims, and then the first port of call for any legal queries we have, decide whether they can be answered in-house or whether we need to take external legal counsel. I've then given some of the improvement areas they'll be working on, and they've come really from either internal audits we've had, external audits, or as CFO mentioned earlier, some key lines of improvement what the service is working on will influence some of the priorities. And yeah, and then at the end, then I've just put some of the risks facing both teams. And again, I've covered both reports at once. So the risks are very similar. So the risks talk about, obviously, I mentioned those specialist roles. They can be quite difficult to fill and backfill. They're both very competitive industries, and it's not so we've got the current data protection officer is on secondment within the service, and unfortunately is kindly assisting the team, and the legal services manager role is obviously temporary vacant as well. So we're looking at alternative solutions there. And I think the other one is obviously noticing with the substantial improvement agenda the service is working on. Both of these teams are affected in terms of their workload. So the information governance team, and Christian, I know this, obviously in terms of our grievance, disciplinaries, and especially if you're looking at more ICT software systems, and you're looking at furnishing data subject access requests, and as you're using more and more CCTV and body cams, they'll have to get a lot more involved in making sure that we use those systems in a compliant manner. And it's the same with our legal teams. Then again, like I said, a lot of our legal issues are getting more and more complex. And as the services, obviously the role of the firefighter is broadening. We are looking at, obviously the legal team has to be involved to ensure that we're adequately insured for these broader duties. So like I said, I won't labour on both reports, but I'm more than happy to take questions at that point, if that's okay.
Kirsty, these reports are for information. Have you got any comments?
No, thank you very much. I'm very grateful to receive them. It's a really, really useful paper to understand some of the challenges in those teams that sometimes don't get the priority that or the visibility that they deserve. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, thanks for that. I mean, I think the staffing continues to be an issue in both sides. I'm conscious that, Chris is behind us and that, he covers both roles. So we're grateful to Christian for that. And also the legal services management, we need to try and sort that out. But then, it's not the first section in this building where we've had difficulties in trying to get recruitment. So we look forward to the update on that. Thank you for that. I'm conscious, Kirsty, we need to go to another meeting, or you?
I do, but if I leave, we won't be quorate. So
there's no more decisions to make, or this, or
well, no, we won't be quorate if I'm not here. So we'll carry on.
So the next bit is the forward work programme. Has anyone's got any comments on that? No, there were no AOBs that were raised with me. So that is the end of the meeting. Thank you.
Also for a speedy finish.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.